Okay, today we are playing a game on Ilios. The average SR of this game was 2,316, and we will be playing Orisa the entire way through. And our current team composition is Orisa, Winston, Tracer, Soldier 76, Lucio, and Zenyatta. So, pretty average except for the Orisa, but we are actually on Ilios, which, at this point, it seems pretty much standard procedure to have an Orisa on Ilios as well, seeing as we can't pick Roadhog anymore. One day, maybe, but today is not that day. In the accompanying email, it says a couple of things, but the important thing is I would like some pointers on how to use Halt because I don't seem to be able to get kills with it very consistently. I would say, on average, you shouldn't really expect to get that many kills with Halt because Orisa doesn't do a lot of upfront damage, unless you're right in her face, in which case, then her minigun basically becomes hit scam for all intents and purposes. So, I would not expect to get many kills with Halt. Basically, use it as frequently as possible to pull people out of cover, out from behind cover, out from behind shields. Try to angle it a little bit into the air because then they have to actually land and hit the ground before they can start moving around again, so you have crowd control them just a little bit longer. Just use it as frequently as possible, and if you do manage to get a kill, that's great. But I would not expect it to be what happens every time you use Halt. It is the kind of ability that benefits a little bit from communication, because one of the benefits of it is like a mini graviton effect, where if you've got like a Reinhardt, for example, this is a very straightforward example, if you've got a Reinhardt and he fire strikes right where you throw your Halt, he'll get a lot of ult charge and do 100 damage to everybody. If you've got a soldier and you tell him you're using Halt, and he can Helix rocket into everybody that you pull in, they'll probably die at that point. So it benefits a bit from communication, but that's all dependent on your team, of course, more than anything else. But yeah, don't expect to get kills with it. Just use it as frequently as possible to pull people out of position and try to get a kill out of it. More general other things with Halt. If you're defending on the high ground, remember that you can use it to pull people off of the high ground if they come up there to fight you. Suppose Winston, D.Va, and Genji come up there. You can use Halt to pull some of them off of the high ground, probably, and that'll make it easier for you to deal with. If there's pits, you obviously want to use it to try and drag people into pits, that kind of thing. If there's somebody that is kind of gonna fuck with your team, if there's like a Lucio bouncing around in your team, if Genji's coming in with Dragon Blade, if Pharah's floating above head, just use it to sort of fuck them up a little bit, because if Genji dashes in and then you suddenly yank him back a few feet, he's gonna be like, oh fuck, that kind of fucked with me. If Farah tries to concussive blast past into your team or something, and then you yank her back, she's gonna be like, oh fuck. And if they're relatively close to you at that point, it'll probably be easier to actually hit them with your fusion driver. And the slow is surprisingly strong against certain heroes like Lucio. So, those are some general things with Halt. Yeah, just use it as frequently as possible, basically. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, let me know, and I'll go into further elaboration. So, let's start the game. So we're on Well right now. We're coming around the right-hand side, which is for the best, I find, if you're playing Orisa, because Orisa doesn't really like to stand in the main thoroughfare that frequently because she isn't a very good frontline tank. You generally want to be a little bit further back. Suppose if we had come up this way, we'd be face to face with Reinhardt and Junkrat throwing bombs at us, so that's suddenly a lot harder for us to deal with. Whereas if we're over here, Reinhardt's all the way over there, he has to come up to us, so we've got a little bit more cover to work with as well, which is good because when you're playing Orisa, you're a very immobile hero, so you want to always be near something you can use as cover, and you've got, more things to go in and out of over here. So, we throw our Halt out, try and pull somebody into the pit. We didn't manage it, feels bad, man. I'm really bad at doing that with Halt, because I like to blame it on the fact that I'm colorblind and I can't see the orb correctly, but I'm actually just kind of terrible. I don't know if you've, noticed this at any point over the last, 6 months, but... So, our team's going in over there. We can't go in and actually help with that because we're playing Orisa, we're a long-range hero. So we use Halt right there, and it's very optimistic, I would say. We try and yank somebody into the pit, but there's a fight happening over there. There's no way their team is actually going to come out near the pit to get dragged in. You'd be better off throwing it, around here-ish, because then if anybody's right around the corner, you yank them back out. Probably Roadhog, since he just waddled his way off over there. Yank him back out, get few more shots into him, and then that'll be a more effective use of halt than that right there, because there's no way that actually hits anybody. So, last time we had an Orisa video, I say last time, it was the first time we had an Orisa video, someone was somewhat upset that I didn't say very much about Fortify. For the most part, I think Fortify is a very straightforward ability to use, because you just sort of want to use it when you think you're going to take a lot of damage, or when you think an important CC is going to hit you. What I mean by an important CC is one that's going to kill you if it lands. For example, McCree's Flashbang, probably not going to kill you straight up, because you're kind of healthy, unless you're right in front of the enemy team, in which case you're probably fucked regardless. You want to use Fortify to block things like Reinhardt's Charge, Roadhog's Hook, things like that. If you step on Junkrat's Trap, you can use that to just break out of the trap. And if you think you're going to take a big chunk of damage, then you also want to use Fortify. In general, it's the sort of ability that's always going to benefit from using too soon rather than too late. Because if you use it after you've already taken all of the damage in the CC, well, that's not very helpful, is it? So, but right here, so the build up right here is I don't think we needed to use Fortify right here, because there's not actually anything around us. We just got hit by some incoming shrapnel, and it looks like we sort of used it on reflex. We weren't really being threatened by very much yet, and now Fortify's cooldown is 10 seconds. That's kinda long, so you don't want to use it frivolously, but at the same time, if you're feeling like you're in danger, or that you're about to get hit by an important CC, just use it, because it's better to use it too soon than too late, because if you use it too late, it does nothing. So Junkrat right here is performing an illegal maneuver. He's just running straight in at us, which he's not allowed to do. Our halt wasn't up, so we couldn't use it to like slow him down a little bit as he walked in. We are unfortunately gonna get fucked in this narrow area, because we're backing up into the alleyway behind us, which is very, very narrow, and we're just definitely going to get hit by these bombs, because we're playing Orisa. We're pretty big hero. Because right around here is where I think, oh, we're kind of in trouble right now. If you're in trouble as Orisa, you have to stop firing, because you get slowed down significantly when you're getting shot at. When you're shooting, rather. Well, I mean, if you're getting shot at as well, maybe. But when you're shooting, you're a lot slower. So right around here is where I'm thinking, we're in some bad times, because we're at half HP, Junkrat's firing at us. So I would throw just like the halt out somewhere to mess with him, and then you stop shooting, and you turn and you walk away. Another important thing, when you're moving backwards, you do actually move slightly slower than if you're facing that direction, which is why if you're backpedaling away from a Reinhardt or a Symmetra, they eventually catch you. It's because you move at 90% move speed when you're moving backwards. So if you're in a bad spot as Orisa, stop shooting at the person that's gonna kill you, just stop firing, turn, and run away. We are also running into the alleyway is not the best way to go, because it is a very narrow area, and we're gonna just get fucked going down it, because Junkrat is gonna throw bombs in. So even though it seems like it wouldn't be that much better, going through the house is actually better, because you can get around a corner, and then Junkrat has to do more geometry to actually hit you than just firing into the alleyway. Because we're a big lady, we're gonna get hit. So we're coming back over now. Junkrat's out there, managed to kill Tracer, which is very sad. Junkrat currently performing an illegal maneuver. Right here is where you just use halt to slow this guy down, because he's running off here, he's after people, he hasn't noticed us. Just halt him like here. Well, like here, preferably, probably, but more important is this, that you pull him back, so you slow him, and then you'll get like a bunch more shots in on him, and he'll probably die at that point. Also, since he's running in at our team, it can be worth just like trying to chuck the shield past him so that he can't actually fire at your team anymore, because we've got some people like Zenyatta who are pretty vulnerable, so we don't really want him to just kill them. So like halt him back. If you think he's hitting somebody, try and like throw your shield in the way of him. But more important, just like halt him back sooner and then try to kill him before he actually gets in on your team. So we halt him right there. We don't really do that much with that halt though, because we sort of halt him into our team and close to cover anyway, so he just gets out of the way again. Junkrat very much performed an illegal maneuver for about 30 solid seconds, and he just got away with everything, which just goes to show there's no justice in the world. Roadhog right there, finding out why Orisa is pretty good against tanks, because we've just been sort of slowly chewing through him this entire time. And he didn't look like he was having a great time. So, other general advice is that you want to have your shield always on cooldown, basically. So, just like, use it right there, you know, a little bit sooner. And this general efficiency thing, shoot your shield straight up into the air, because your cooldown starts when you fire it, but your original shield stays there until the second one lands. If you shoot it straight up into the air, by the time it lands, you've got about 6 seconds left on the cooldown. So, if your shield is taking any kind of damage at all, just up, down, right? And if you're in the middle of a fight, you know, it's not gonna really matter, because it's gonna get broken before your cooldown is up anyway, but if you're in a more sort of slow grinder style fight, you want to try and have your shield always on cooldown so that you just have it as healthy as possible, as frequently as possible, basically. Just a general efficiency thing with Orisa. So we are running away from the tire. We have used Fortify, basically expecting to get fucked by the tire. Junkrat's chosen to try and pull off some very interesting maneuvers with his tire right there, right? You know, we come around the corner and we're like, oh, fucking hell. It's like a shark in a tank, isn't it? Just like pops up over the top and then it's gone. So, didn't even have to worry about it. Unfortunately, we had just used our Fortify, so we couldn't use it to break the Junkrat trap, excuse me, Jesus Christ. We do chuck the shield in a not super helpful location, because it's sort of facing sideways across the point, so it's not really getting much coverage towards their side of the map. You know, it's a little bit like that, rather than like that, which is more coverage. Also, Reinhardt's coming up on us right there. Reinhardt's dead now, because he had Discord Orb on him, and he just kind of got fucked by a bunch of people. So, over here, there is a nano-boosted Junkrat running around, which is very unusual, but still spooky, because Junkrat does a lot of AoE damage, which is generally going to benefit from being nano-boosted, since it's very consistent damage to land. So, we were basically fucked there, because a lot of our team got died. So, we're Orisa. We're a slow, very easy to kill hero if somebody gets right on top of you, so we're just kind of fucked, really.
Thank you.
So, well is a little awkward for Orisa, because there aren't very many, far back places to stand, really. Koth in general will sort of have this problem for Orisa, where, Orisa doesn't really want to be on the front line, right? Orisa really wants to be tanking sort of from the back line, because she's very easy to overrun. So you don't usually want to be, like, at the front, because that's where all of the danger is, and you're very, very prone to getting overrun by, like, the Reaper just holding W and mouse 1 as he walks towards you. You do usually want to be, like, further back near your back line, and just, like, protecting them while you let, like, Reinhardt go up and stand in the front instead, and then you stand, like, a layer back. But, we can't really do that on most King of the Hill maps. Well, in particular, you're just sort of on the point, or you're not on the point. That's kind of it, really. So we just sort of accidentally killed Roadhog right there, which feels good, and we managed to yank a Lucy of all people into the well and kill him, which feels pretty good, man. Farah did that, not really allowed to do that. We do sort of make it a little easier for her to kill us, because we start backing up, which is a fairly obvious reflex maneuver to start backing away from the danger. I'm not going to deny that. But you could tuck under your shield instead. Just, like, slide forward a little bit, and then she actually has to get through the shield as well, plus your Fortify. Whereas if you back up, she just throws it straight at you on the Fortify. Doesn't matter, because she dies, because she's performing an illegal maneuver. Good maneuver to walk past and try and pick up the health kit before Anna can, but we were purple, so we couldn't pick it up anyway, but she didn't make it there anyway. Good maneuver all the same to try and take the health kit from people. So, right there, I would use Fortify basically as a precaution, because Roadhog is very clearly looking to hook somebody into this well right now. And I would just use Fortify, seeing him starting to run forward, because it's pretty easy to hit you as Orisa, and if he hits you, there should be no reason you don't go in the well. So I would use Fortify just to be sure you don't get pulled into the well, which would mean certain death. Didn't quite manage to pull the Reinhardt in as he swung by, which is unfortunate. We've heard Junkrat using the tire, so we've just come around the side and just sort of killed him. which feels real good, man. However, he did kill our Lucio before he died, which feels bad, man. There's Farah. Farah's pretty hard to hit as Orisa, because we do have a projectile weapon, which is generally going to make it harder. Though the projectiles do move pretty fast. So right there, showing why Orisa is good at suppression. When you've got 150 rounds in your clip, you can just sort of fire in the general vicinity of the enemy team, and if they try and walk out, you might just kill them. Which is what happened to Orisa right there. Orisa is very good at suppression, seeing as she has 150 rounds in her clip, which is also a minigun. So D.Va coming in here, trying to just chew through us. However, we just drilled right into her fucking faceplate and killed her, so not a problem. Well, we killed her mech. Same difference. However, the rest of the team was actually there as well. You do have to be careful when you go that aggressively forward as Orisa, because if they do get on you, you are basically dead. And we were, sort of more on their side of the point than ours, so that starts to get risky at that point. You do have to be very careful with how you position as Orisa, because she is one of the more punishing heroes if you position badly, because there's very little you can do to get away. She doesn't even have, the old-school Roadhog fallback of, well, you might just kill the person. Because if it's somebody like Reaper or Tracer, you probably won't kill the person. So you do have to be careful about overextending. So we do have the bongo built up, which is pretty cool. And we're going to use it not too long from now, I'm pretty sure. We put it right around this corner. Yeah, there we go. Which is good practice. You want to try and put it around a corner as much as possible. I would put a shield, because our shield's up right now, I would put a shield right here. In general, when you put your bongo down, I would recommend putting a freshly washed shield right next to it, just in case. Because it's only got 200 HP. It's pretty easy to kill, as we can see right there. We've instead put a shield down right here, which isn't doing too terribly much. It's probably to try and block Earth Shatter more than anything else, based on the fact we kind of throw it at Reinhardt. D.Va's also coming up right now. However, she didn't get very much done. Tried to pull Reinhardt in, didn't quite slide it past his shield. There is still a D.Va off on the right-hand side, but Soldier's using Tac Visor, so she's pretty fucked regardless. And we won the round. Feels good, man. So now we're gonna go to Well, which is a pretty good map for Orisa because it's a lot of long-range shooting generally. It's very common to see Widowmaker and Farah on this map because the map is so elongated and benefits from long range generally. We just sort of chuck our shield over there, see if it can inconvenience some people. Common thing I find what people do with Orisa on this map is they usually stand in this area with their shield, which we do in this game as well. I find it's better to stand up here because this is a slightly higher ground, which is not inconsequential. But you can see better. If you're in this narrow thoroughfare, it's easy to just get shelled by a Farah or a Junkrat just bouncing things into the doorway at you. If you're up here, you can still use the shield. It's not like the shield's gonna last any longer over here as opposed to over here. So you just get more coverage, and it's harder to just die to random shrapnel getting thrown in at you. Plus slightly higher ground, and you can overlook the point much easier from up here. This is generally where soldiers and McCrees like to stand because, high ground overlooking the point. So I find it's better to stand up there than over here, just as Orisa generally speaking. Which we do in this game as well. Heh, do. So, our shield is on cooldown right now. We didn't use our shield for a while right there. We have used Fortify, I would say fairly frivolously, because, I know why you've used it. You're low HP and you don't want to die, but you're standing behind your shield right now as well. So, don't need to use Fortify right there, because you shouldn't take that much damage when you're standing behind your shield anyway. So here's Junkrat. We are walking into Junkrat, which we don't want to do, because that makes it easier for Junkrat to kill us. Remember, Junkrat can't take damage from his own bombs anymore, so running into Junkrat does nothing but help Junkrat. So, we don't want to do this. We don't want to go into, the area we go into anyway, where we go through this very narrow channel right here, right into all of this, and then we walk through our own shield, probably trying to get to the large health kit, but you don't want to advance as Orisa unless you're advancing with your shield. We just left our shield behind and walked into the enemy team trying to kill them. You want to just stay back, be very calm, very patient, and use your range and like ability to like build a bunker to fight people rather than just advancing into them, because advancing in willy-nilly is the easiest way to die as Orisa. So we put our shield down right there. Probably not really going to do very much, because the enemy team is not generally going to be standing just on the other side of this pillar, so probably not going to do too much. We yank Reinhardt off of the high ground right there onto the point, which is, you know, he wasn't really doing very much up there anyway, but if you can yank somebody off high ground, that's generally good. D.Va trying the same maneuver as before, but we're just drilling into her faceplate with Fortify up, and she's fucking dead. We also had our team to back us up. We also see over there, they've lost both of their DPS. Soldier and Tracer have killed Junkrat and Pharah. So this should not be too difficult for us now, especially since Reinhardt has performed an illegal maneuver and dashed straight into our entire team. So, you know. So we don't want to stand on the point still, because standing in the point on ruins is generally very bad. So we're going to stand up right here now, instead of just shooting at people, which is fine. But we do have to retreat backwards as soon as we think they're going to advance on us, because we are still playing Orisa. So we do still have to be very careful about getting overrun. So if we see the enemy team starting to advance in on us, like over here, or right now we see them just starting to go on to the point, we want to retreat to our equivalent of this side here, and just set up on there, and then start pressuring down into the point. Because don't forget, we're still really good at suppression, so if we see people standing around in the point, and we're sitting up here, just having a grand old time behind our shield, you know, this is us having a grand time behind our shield, we just shoot down onto all the people who have chosen to stand on the point, and they're gonna be really sad about it. Especially if we've got like a soldier or a McCree standing up there with us, as you should generally have in most games, then you just drill down onto them standing on the point, because this is a very one of the worst points to stand directly on, because it's a square in another square. You're being threatened from every angle, basically. So we want to just like stand up there and have a good time shooting down at people. And we want to retreat back as soon as we think we're getting advanced on. Like right now, Reinhardt trying to walk in on us, we would rather be backing up rather than just sort of hanging around up here. We don't also just chuck the shield down on Reinhardt, which is not really going to do too much. Oh, we were doing it because of that, weren't we? Never mind. We do want to be backing up, though. This is a very awkward area to fight in, since we're sort of boxed in. Reinhardt looks very lost and confused with himself. Right there, this is one of those moments where you stop firing and move out of the way, because you're not going to get out of the way if you don't stop firing and move. However, this is very funny, and we're going to preemptively go to slow motion, because this is pretty sick, right? No. At least his nano boost was mostly over when he fell off, so he doesn't have to feel as bad about it. However, he did just sort of do nothing with the nano boost anyway, in general. So yeah, if your Fortify is not up, just stop shooting and get out of the way, because that's gonna happen. Although, in most situations, the Reinhardt is probably not going to immediately kill himself afterwards as well. So, we are back up on the point again right now. We had our supercharger built up, which is cool and all. Threw our ult in, probably to try and get the Pharah. Didn't actually get the Pharah. There's Pharah. Standing perfectly still. Standing perfectly still, yes. I often stand perfectly still in the air. So, we are getting killed by Ana right now, which is very unfortunate, but is sort of what's gonna happen from this position, really. Why have we walked up this far, actually? We were just sort of, like, strafing alongside the Pharah. So, yeah, like, we're fucked, really, because we're very easy to hit, and we're mostly dead. So, there's not much you can do about that, except don't be on the point in that position. Just try and, like, be standing on the rim, shooting down into it, because, yeah, as soon as I see the Ana shooting at you like that, you've got no Fortify, no shield, I'm like, yeah, you're just fucked, basically, unless you kill that Ana really quickly, which is going to be hard for Orisa to do. So we're coming back up now. We've still got our supercharger built up, which is cool. We're going to use it pretty soon, I think, because we dump it in, like, the corner right next to us. Yeah, we're going to do it right now. So I would again just leave a freshly ironed shield right next to it, just in case. However, this one does, I believe, go through its full duration. Also, like, we got killed right there, but Reinhardt charged in really deep to do it, so he's just gonna get fucking murdered. And then, like, him and Lucio are just dancing around and get fucked as well anyway. So even though we died, enemy team executed the fight so poorly, didn't matter. And we just sort of got away with everything. Again, we don't want to be standing on the point. As soon as we're given an opportunity to reset, we want to reset up on our equivalent of this area, because that's the best. You just get to shoot down to the point and have a great time. Standing on, like, the side over there next to the pillars is also not terrible, but you do have to watch the doorway to the enemy side in case you get flanked. So, we just heard Hammer Down over there, which is very spooky, but we're also kind of fighting D.Va at the time as well, so we want to deal with that situation. So we do see that we've lost both of our supports, which is terrible news. And we are advancing in onto the point again, which we don't want to do if at all possible, you know, especially as Orisa, we don't want to be, like, quite on the front line, which is about on the point. We can let, like, Winston stand up here, or Soldier as well. Even Soldier's kind of better to stand up there, because he actually has more mobility than us. You don't want to go in to stand on things like that as Orisa unless you absolutely have to, because you're actually very soft and very easy to kill, and you have no mobility. So you do want to be as far back as often as possible. You want to play relatively Soldier-esque in basically where you want to stand as far back as possible on high ground, but with the caveat that you're also trying to protect your backline, because you're still a tank, you know, you're just generally going to be the off tank, because Orisa doesn't have quite the presence to be the main tank up at the front line. So let more qualified people stand up on the point until you have to come and stand on the point, basically. You want to be far back on high ground, protecting your back line, and just suppressing into an area, you know, fucking with people with halt and just trying to yank people out and kill them. So we see they have a Reaper in the kill feed right there. He's died to Tracer. This is very important information, because now we have to be watching for Reaper constantly. Because if there's one person that's going to kill you with basically nothing you can do about it, it's going to be Reaper. He's going to kill you. Unless you are the greatest of all time and you're going to land nothing but headshots, you've got to be aware he's coming so that you can avoid him. Because he's going to kill you. So now that we've seen that he's there, we've got to be looking for him constantly. So, we do see that they still have a Pharah. They've lost 2 members of their team right now, so they're pretty fucked. Did yank Reinhardt off the edge right there, right as he was using charge, so it felt even worse. There's a baby D.Va here. Could have just punched her, rather than continuing to try and shoot her after a little bit there, but, you know, she was fucked regardless, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, just like, you know, throw it out, try and get him. Right there, you get him to use his, Wraith form. You trade your halt for his Wraith form, which makes Reaper a lot less good as a hero if he can't just walk up safely. We see that Reinhardt has killed himself, so maybe he's trolling at this point, who knows, you know, it's Overwatch. Reaper just got fucked over there by Soldier, so that's great. We're sort of, like, back to, like, not looking at the Pharah, like, or if I can't see her, she can't see me, rather than shooting up at her. Not a terrible place to put the shield, but a little bit risky because you are still very close to the edge. Imagine a Lucio comes up behind you right now and just manages to bonk you off the edge or something. That'd be pretty spooky. So not a terrible place to put the shield, but you have to remember we are standing right next to an edge. So there is still the risk of getting pushed off and getting killed, which we did mitigate right there by walking back from the concussive blast. We're spending a lot of time looking for this Pharah right now, while there's like a fight happening over there, which we would probably rather be involved in, rather than looking for the Pharah, but now the fight has come to us. So, this is the moment where you think to yourself, I'm gonna die. You do have to be careful about using halt around a D.Va, because it does get eaten by defense matrix. So you need to try and be like a little more patient in that situation. But as soon as a D.Va and a Reaper are right on top of you as Orisa, you are fucked, basically. It is a similar situation where you don't really want to be standing on the point, if at all possible, because that's where you're probably gonna get fucked. If you can get an excuse to go up onto the high ground, that's pretty sick, obviously, because high ground is generally pretty sick. But if you can, sort of standing more like back here, like shield on like around this area and standing back here, Because you can still pressure, like, all the same areas over there, and you're just less likely to get killed the second they come out of the gate. Because if you're standing up here, they don't actually have to get very far to close in on you, right? Because they just have to go like that, and they're right on top of you. So you'll be, like, here, like, pretty easy to die. So we do want to be, like, pretty far back still as Orisa, because you don't want to get overrun and murdered. So we do have to be more further back than a lot of tanks. Orisa is fairly counterintuitive compared to most tank heroes because she is so easy to kill. And she has so few ways to defend herself once people are right on top of her. So even though you're a tank, you do have to position further back because you are so prone to getting killed. So right there, Reinhardt, we're trying to kill our own Mercy. Reinhardt used his Earth Shatter directly into Winston's bubble, so that didn't get very much done right there. This is a sort of situation where you might think about using Halt, because there's a Reaper dancing around in front of you. So you might want to just chuck it kind of like that, because then you slow him, or like that, then you slow him, and like fuck with him moving into you. And he's slowed, he's easier to hit. You'll probably use Wraith Form as a response to getting hit by Halt. Granted, we have got Transcendence happening right behind us right now as well, so it's not too spooky. This is pretty telegraphed, so we do just put the shield down in front of us and hide behind it. Because our Halt is about to come off cooldown, I find it unlikely that most people would think to do this in the moment, but because your Fortify is about to come off cooldown and Mercy is over here, it's probably worth chucking the shield over here to try and block for Mercy, because you can use Fortify, and that's going to stop Death Blossom from killing you because you're full HP right now. So, and you'll just be, like, drilling into him the whole time. Like, he won't kill you through Fortify as using Death Blossom. He would actually, funny fact with tanks and Reaper, you generally using Death Blossom makes you do less damage to the tank than just left-clicking into them. So, he's gonna do it. Like, we know, we've seen Reapers before, we know what he's gonna do. I do find it unlikely anyone would think to do this in the moment. I doubt I would think to do this in the moment, but, you know, this is all happening. We see it happening. We can eyeball our cooldowns and see Fortify's almost up. So, chuck it over there. Mercy doesn't get killed by Death Blossom. She should see it coming and get out of the way sooner anyway, but we can't rely on our team to do anything, as we've said many, many times before. But we won the round. We won the game, in fact, 3-0. Pretty easy overall, but I do think we had some things to talk about anyway. So, let's watch the play of the game. Who got the play of the game? It was Soldier. It had to think about it for a little bit. Sharpshooter. Oh, that's only the second time I've ever seen a Soldier get the Sharpshooter play of the game. So, come on. Let's see. Yeah, alright. I don't buy it. I think he was just firing into a choke point and got them. But, you know, whatever. Yeah, fun fact, Soldier can actually get the Sharpshooter reward, which is, not very commonly seen, but it can happen. So, I don't think there were very many, like, overarching things to say at the end here, really. Just, like, the general efficiency things. The biggest thing is, like, stand further back, generally speaking. But this was a King of the Hill map, Ilios in particular, where you don't generally get very many opportunities to stand that far back, but stand further back in general. But, you know, that could just be because we were on Ilios, but yeah, stand further back. Can't really think of anything else that was like a huge overarching thing, really. Just, yeah, stand further back. Try and stand on high ground if possible. But there's almost none of that to actually take advantage of on Ilios. Ilios is very unusual in that respect, isn't it? There's almost no high ground, really, except on Lighthouse. So, you know, unless you count, like, the rim on Ruins. Yeah. No huge overarching things other than that, though. So, thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. And I hope you found the video helpful.